Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the After Class podcast. I am your host Evan, joined by co-host Aiden.
Hi there. Today we've got yet another guest for you. I bet nobody was out there was expecting that. On this episode 5, today we have Mr. McGregor.
Hello.
Glad to have you, sir.
Yeah, it's really nice to be here. I'm glad I'm feeling like this is a really good time. Wish I would have been invited for episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, well,
At least I got one.
We've briefly discussed having multiple guests on the same episode, so any listeners out there might have that to look forward to if we can find a good duo. But yeah, maybe one day.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Anyway, sir,
Awesome.
glad to have you on here.
Yeah, nice to be here.
So, would you like to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself in terms of, how long you've been teaching for, what kind of subjects you teach, and, the kind of things you teach in your classrooms, your style? So to speak.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Sure. Well, so I've been here at Holy Trinity, and really, actually, this has been my only teaching job, like official teaching job, 19 years. And so 20, I guess, come September. And my educational background is religious studies. I also have a minor in English, but I don't like to tell everybody that just in case I have to teach it. Because I really do like teaching the religious studies courses that we have here at Holy Trinity. And so far, 19 years strong, so I seem to be doing something right, or at least not getting caught for the things I do wrong. And then I guess part of your question was teaching style, perhaps.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Every time we do one of these episodes, we try to get a general introduction of the teacher in case somebody listening has never met you before.
Never met me. Yeah, okay,
So
good.
they know who
good.
they're talking to. I
Gotcha.
guess.
Okay, right on. So I guess I would say my teaching style is storytelling. Yeah, the raconteur. Yeah, and I've always said, and anyone that's been into my class would say that would know that I mentioned that we are all walking, talking stories. That's what we are. We are storytelling people, but individually we are a story that presents itself daily to everybody.
Right.
Yeah, and so I just find that seems for me the easiest way to teach is just to sort of just cling on to that idea that people like stories. That's what movies are, obviously books, songs are stories, and we are stories. So I guess I like to tell a good story.
I was gonna say, I bet you have a lot of stories to tell.
Some, yeah. I've been alive. This is my 56th year on the planet, so I've collected, I guess, a few stories. Yeah, some good, some bad, some worth telling. Maybe some are just too boring.
Yeah.
You said you've been working for the school for how long?
Yeah, so 19 years.
19.
Yeah, so I started September of 2002.
Did you always want to be a teacher? Is that the plan? Or?
No, well, not really. I went through the those various stages. Want to be an astronaut, want to be a fireman. Actually, the truth is, I wanted to be a policeman originally. Yeah, when I was in grade 12, stepped off the bus coming home. My friend said, "Hey, college applications to do tomorrow. Did you apply anywhere?" And I said, no, where did you apply? Law and security at Seneca. I said, that sounds good. I could see myself being a police officer. So that's how I made that decision. Wow. And but the reality turned into something quite different. Yeah.
And it sounds like we've heard sort of a similar story with some of our other teachers here too. Was it S.W.A.K?
S.W.A.K had a camping degree.
Yeah, his degree in camping, which I'm sure you heard all about.
Oh, yes. He doesn't come up with too many news stories, so. Yeah, I'm quite jealous of his camping degree.
I thought these guys were friends, Chad.
Friendly.
Right,
friendly, yeah.
We've had Mr. McLaughlin and Mr. S.W.A.K on the podcast so far, so we've heard lots of camping stories.
Yes, two guys to go camping with. Well, it's just funny actually because so I didn't end up becoming a police officer, and at one point through my schooling and the practical portion of the schooling, I realized that it wasn't cut out for me. Right. I wasn't paying close enough attention to what that voice that calls you and tells you what your vocation is, your calling, right? So, and it happens to a lot of people, right? So you don't slow down enough and you don't listen. And that's something I certainly learned in life is is listen. You hear lots of things, but are you truly listening? And especially in crucial moments in your life, or certainly times of discernment, it's important to listen. And then the answer does appear. It doesn't necessarily, it appears in different ways. I guess it appears in different ways. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So I did not become a police officer, but I did become a soldier. I went into the military. And
yeah, I was eventually going to ask you about that, because I figured,
Yeah.
especially if people haven't had your class before or don't know you too well, I figured that would be an interesting conversation topic.
Right. Well, that certainly. Well, it took away 10 years. Well, I spent 10 years of my life doing that before I realized that I think it's time to move on to the next stage and get some more schooling, and I really liked the idea of being a teacher. I guess I just thought it was a good fit for me and my personality. Yeah.
And what drew you towards the military?
What did I do?
What drew you towards it?
I guess the same thing that drew me towards wanting to be a police officer. I guess I always just liked the idea of service to others. And I grew up, from a very young age. I was in Cubs, and I was on Scouts, and I was in Ventures, and I was in Army Cadets, I was always in uniform and always doing. And there's lots of service opportunities in those groups. And I just always felt kind of like I was doing something for somebody. And I guess I just thought I was going to be a little bit of an older Boy Scout as a police officer, right? Yeah. And then, of course, the military was, I love camping. I actually joined the military because I like camping, and going and just that group camaraderie and I guess just the organized events that take place. But they did really take the fun out of camping. So
yeah, I guess they would. Those military guys, Evan, take the fun out of everything.
They do. The military takes the fun out of everything. Maybe that's just the point, right? Because if you're not serious, then you'll make mistakes. So I'm not really sure.
I guess you're supposed to imagine getting shot at while you're camping and whatever else. So can't really blame them.
Right.
So then, when did the teaching thing come along?
Oh, so I guess, maybe if I really was honest with myself, in the back of my mind, I thought that it'd be great to be a teacher. My favorite teacher was my grade 8 teacher. And when my very first class we had with him, he talked about himself. He was a great storyteller.
Yeah.
And he had, through the whole year we were with him, great stories and shared things about his personal life and really made lots of great connections. And I just didn't think I'd ever be able to become one because of the journey it takes and the commitment. And I thought, that's a lot of academia. And I just didn't think that was for me. And then 10 years of digging ditches and polishing boots. Maybe I can do this academia. And so that's where I had to change the direction and listen to that voice that was calling me and say, head down this direction, head down this route.
And you've been doing it for 20 years now, so I assume you made a good decision.
Yeah,
right?
I think so. Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love coming in here. This is such a great school as well. And the people, and I just love coming. It's always something different every single day. And just meet so many people. Like I meet so many people, year after year, and everyone with a different story to tell. And I guess I learn too. Like you're not a good teacher unless you're a good student, right? Because you're never, as a teacher, I would never ever assume that I know everything. And so I have to keep learning to become a good teacher. And it's sort of just a give and take. Every time I come, I'm getting something from everybody, all my students, and then hopefully I'm giving something back as well.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Have you worked at any other schools besides HD?
Well, so in the very first year I was hired, way back in 2002, our school board, we went on a strike. And I hadn't although I was working at Holy Trinity, I wasn't a full-time contract yet. I was called a long-term occasional. And it's a different union, and that union was not on strike. So I was coming to school while everyone was on strike, and I was the new guy, and I was walking past the picket line, giving them a nice hello. And there was no classes and nothing to do. I think I fixed some staplers or something for Miss Gennaro. I think she gave me a job like that while I was here. And then the school board decided, well, we've got these LTOs that aren't teaching any classes. So they used us as supply teachers for the elementary schools that were not on strike yet. So the only other schools I worked at were as a supply teacher during the strike of 2002. And I was at St. Charles, and I went to Mother Teresa and just did a few classes. And then the elementary school teachers went on strike right shortly after. And then I was sort of caught in limbo. Yeah. So those are the only two. So really, officially as a teacher, this is the only school I've worked at.
I see.
Yeah.
And you're also our school chaplain.
Mm-hmm.
So to become the school chaplain, is there anything, a specific path you needed to take, I guess?
Oh, indeed. All the best school chaplains look like Jesus. So you must have long hair, a beard, blue eyes, light color, light color. No.
So you were the perfect fit.
I always joke. It's funny. So as I mentioned, I was in the army. I did not have any hair on my arms, legs, or in my face for probably 30 years of my life. And then I one day come back from a canoe trip, I had grown a beard, and I was like, hey, my God, I finally grew a beard. Like I couldn't even believe it. I barely even had to shave in the army, and you got to really shave in the army. And my wife said, oh, with your long hair and now a beard, you really want to keep the beard? People will probably call you Jesus. I said, nobody will call me Jesus. Everybody calls me Jesus. Sorry, joking aside, no, and as I tell all the students in my class, it's very easy to look like Jesus, but I'd rather somebody said I acted like Jesus, because that's the hard part, right? That's the difficult part. To be the chaplain, couple things. It's good to have a background, an educational background in religious studies or theology. Right? So I have that. So that was good. Enthusiasm. Yeah.
I guess it's definitely a more, like, obviously more spiritual, but also more emotional, like, role, I guess. You have to be a figurehead for the school.
Yep. Spiritual leader. And you then, therefore, your spirituality must become a little more public. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be comfortable with that.
Right.
And that's a bit of a learning curve, or was anyways, as a new chaplain. So I never didn't set out that thinking I would want to be a chaplain. And then when the opportunity presented itself and I was invited, I thought, okay, I'd like to try it and see how, because it is also a role of support. Like as a chaplain, you're there to support others.
Right.
So you have to learn to do that as well. So I thought, well, if I fit into this role and I'll give myself a bit of time to learn this role, and if I see that it's working and people enjoy my presence here as the chaplain, then I'll continue. And so that was certainly that was a motivator, and that was sort of my reasoning behind it. Yeah. But certainly enthusiasm is important, because you have to want to put yourself out there and do little different things than you would as sort of a regular classroom teacher. Although
it seems like a pretty different job.
It is, yeah, it is. Although I do thoroughly enjoy the fact that I get to be a classroom teacher as well, so I get the best of both worlds. Very pleasant. I thank God every day that I'm where I am right now. Yeah.
I'm saying definitely, as we said before, end up with a lot of stories that way, right?
Sure, yeah.
Moving from all these different roles and now a teacher and a chaplain.
Yeah.
And speaking of which,
yes,
I was going to ask you, because I know when I had your religion class last year, you talked about this a little bit, but I know you grew up in a pretty big family.
Yes.
And I don't know if you wanted to talk about that, because I remember you talked about your house.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
Okay, yeah.
And like how you had to sell it.
Right, yeah. That's right. So for those, that's right. We were in the class. I did. So I'm one of 10 kids. I was number 9 of 10. And so we were just numbers. It was easier for my parents just to give us numbers. Later on in life, we picked our own names.
I'm sure your parents were just like, yeah, sure.
Number 9,
sure, number 9,
number 7, you're doing the dishes. Number 3, number 4, would you please, it's time for you to get your showers. Just the numbers system was much easier. No, it's not true. We're all named after saints: Catherine Ann, Elizabeth, Rosemary, Bernadette, Francis, James, Madeline, Jerome, and Marion. That's it. If you counted,
Surprised you can remember them.
Oh, yeah, we were burned in our memory right from the very, very early age. So I have 8 sisters and a brother. And
Wow.
Yes, yeah.
At least there was one.
Yeah.
He had one.
Yeah, 4 years older than me. Yeah, we get on it.
What number was that?
He's number 7. Yeah, 7, 8, 9. Yep, 7.
What was the age group or the age difference between number 1 and number 10?
It's 15 years.
Really?
Yeah, 1 and 10, and with one set of twins in there. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. And really, just sort of an interesting part was that. So by the time I was born and became cognizant and recognizing what was going on, my older sisters were already in high school, and so we always joked there was 2 families: the big kids and the little kids. Right. And so the big kids were. I just knew that everyone would seem to be an authority figure in my life. I was always being babysat or looked after, told what to do by somebody a bit older than me. And as we were growing up, so my dad worked for TV Ontario. I always joked that he was the pokeroo, but he wasn't the pokeroo. But he worked for TV Ontario. My mom stayed at home. She worked at home for supporting the family. And we eventually, we shared rooms. There's 3 of us to a room at some point. And of course I was very little and didn't know any different. Because if you don't, not in any different situation, you don't know. But eventually we got an addition put onto our house, a big addition, and it was big. And it was like a whole other house that just kind of got mashed up to our house.
Well, at that size, it's got to be like another wing.
It was it was a 2-floor wing. And so everybody had their own bedrooms. Granted, a couple of my older sisters had moved out at that point. And the way that the house got sort of, the second addition got put on, we had staircases and rooms, and the basement put another door in, and there's all these little circular little spots you could go. You could go up one set of stairs, cross through a set of rooms, go up down another set of stairs. So it was fun to sneak up on people and play hide and go seek, because you could sneak around the house and come in all these different circular areas.
Well, I guess so. With that much house to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. What did we have? We had 3 living rooms, 9 bedrooms.
9?
2 kitchens. Yeah.
Goodness.
A den. My dad had his own library. 4 bathrooms. Yeah, it was good. It was fun. We all love it. When we came time to sell it, as everyone was getting a bit older and moving out, it wasn't an easy sell, and eventually a family moved into. I grew up in Markham, so a family with 7 children bought the house. Yeah, and they lived there for a good long time, and then they sold it, and now it's like a group home, or it's like a house for like a therapy house.
It's like a sports arena.
My dad, when it was sold, they had an open house and just inviting people from the community around. So my dad went there and was walking through and told them all that he was the original owner of the house and put the addition on. And he came back to tell us that looks like it's still a place for disturbed children.
So nothing's changed.
Nothing changed, it seems. So
that reminds me of actually this place near where my dad lives. They had apparently there was some big like musician or something, some Canadian musician, and he bought this huge mansion near Uxbridge.
Oh yes.
And he lived there for a while. Got arrested on something, some sort of drug abuse charge, and so they seized the house, and now it's a convent.
Oh yeah.
Ironically enough, now it's this big convent. You can see it in the distance. It almost looks like a chateau or something.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty cool. But that's what that story reminds me of. Because what else do you use it as, right?
Yeah. These big, large places. Yeah, exactly. Well, and growing up, when I was growing up in Markham, large families were quite prevalent. Like I was going to school with kids that were all my older siblings went to school with their older siblings. 7, 8, 9, 6 was a small family back then. Yeah. So there was our house. We were the largest family of 10, but and then of course with the putting all the addition on, that became a little bit. But there was a lot of big houses around. Yeah.
I assume it was a pretty good thing having so many people to look up to.
Well, yes, it's funny, eh? So you don't really know any different. But we, reflecting now back, as I said, I'm 56. So looking back, we all love each other and appreciate each other, and we're happy that we got what we got. It's always a fun story, actually. It is to say, oh yeah, I'm one of 10 kids. Like, it's good.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
rare to say. So at least it's one extra story I can put in my back pocket and pop out at whatever time I want. And yeah, good role models, and lots of diversity in the house, and everyone's doing something a little bit different, and so it's nice to get together and share our stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I dread to think what like sibling fights would be like in a house like that.
Oh,
You would have, you
Like
would
a
have,
street war.
yeah, you'd have these coalitions of people.
That's what it was. Yeah, factions.
But-
Yeah, factions.
Would you ever have like 3 sisters fighting with 4 of the sisters, and you and your brother just kind of looking at it, watching it go on? Like,
Well, yeah, what's funny? There wasn't much separation between the boys and the girls as far as sides taking place. There'd be one group of 3 versus another group of 4, and 3 other neutrals, and then within that group, another separate bit of arguments, but also a lot of nothing's too serious that it wouldn't pass with the next dinner.
glad to pick up on some of the McGregor family lore.
Yeah. Well, so my dad was a single child, and so it was very, very funny that he decided he wanted to have a huge family, and he was definitely not used to the noise and the crowd of the dinner table. So every night, 12 people around for dinner, and so he would just be fed up or tired from work, and he would and so there was lots of rules at the dinner table, many rules. You can put your elbows on the table, for instance, and you weren't you had to be 7 before you got to use a knife with your meal, and but also sometimes it'd be so much talking and noise and yelling that the only thing we were allowed to do was sing. So yeah. So no talking, but you can sing. And so we did a lot of singing, actually. My sisters were
That sounds
good.
pretty fun.
Yeah. My sisters were all they were in the Girl Guides, and they knew all these Girl Guide songs, and they loved to sing. They're all very good singers too. So
It sounds like you'd have a whole choir with a table like that.
we did, and most of us. It's funny. My brother hated singing, so he'd be the one frumpy, killjoy in the corner, but everyone else, we'd all be singing all these different fun songs, and I don't know, it was very, very communal at that point. Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Preparing dinner must have been a nightmare too. Having to make that much food.
Buying dinner must have been a nightmare. Think about how much that would cost.
It's true.
Yeah. My dad said many times that he was just so fortunate that he had 8 daughters and only 2 boys. Up the street around the corner, the Millers, they had 8 boys and 1 girl, and we were friends with them. And he said, my gosh, the amount of food that was, he said, we would have gone bankrupt. He said, we would not have had enough money for all the food that was required. And I guess we didn't eat a lot. We didn't eat them out of house and home. Right. So as far, and my dad also said, I complained one time when I was shopping and about the cost of something, and he said, well, if I ever worried about the cost of food, we'd never eat. So somehow we got by. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's like you said, fortunate for him. He had 8 girls to feed and just 2 boys in the McGregor motel.
Exactly. And we didn't eat much. I didn't used to eat much until I became like in my 20s, and then my appetite totally changed. But other than that, I was very very picky eater. Didn't eat much. Yeah.
Do you think that was because of living with 9 siblings?
I don't know.
Did that have any effect on it?
I don't know. Maybe maybe like psychological. I don't think so.
Right.
Like I don't know, just the way I just didn't eat a lot. Yeah, I just didn't. I loved dessert. That was my main focus.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Was dessert. I was getting past dinner to get to the dessert. That's all I cared about. And now, funny enough, I don't eat dessert at all. I don't really like sweets. I guess I ate myself out of that idea.
No.
Hard to say.
Outside of school, these days, would you say you have any hobbies you'd like to talk about?
Oh yeah, sure. So we talked about, I don't know if we talked about camping
No, we
on
can go into
live. Yeah, I certainly love camping. That's what I do, but I obviously don't get to do that too often. I do it as often as I can. I had a nice winter camping trip this year, and that was fun during the family day long weekend. So we got, I've done lots of winter camping throughout my life, and so I don't get to go out too often. but I went this year, and that was really great. Did a little bit of ice fishing and set up our tents and brought all our equipment in on sleds and just pulled them in with our snowshoes on, and that was fun. So I'm going to be going camping again pretty soon. I always go the first weekend of May on a canoe trip. Sometimes it can be dicey, but with the ice. But this year it seems all the ice is gone, so that's good. And then I play a sport called disc golf. Some people call it frisbee golf. They never say that around me because I give them a big frown. But
You're very specific about the terminology.
yeah. Only
So you're a diehard disc golf.
Disc golf, and
player.
exactly. Although I do understand when new people to the sport call it frisbee golf because frisbee's a name brand, and the name and frisbee doesn't even.
It's a rookie mistake.
Exactly. Yeah. But my kids know if they want to irritate me, they call it frisbee golf. And so it's disc golf, and you play it a lot like the regular rules of golf. Instead of hitting a ball, you're throwing a disc. It's a little bit smaller than an ultimate disc you'd see, so a little bit smaller, and they shape them in a way that some drivers go very, very far, but they're not very accurate.
There's actually different ones?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, drivers.
They have like basically clubs.
I
Yeah.
didn't realize it was this big.
Yeah. Mid-range would be your iron. Putters. So you got putters, mid-ranges, and drivers. Yeah, you got distance drivers and fairway drivers, and some that will, when you throw them, will tend to turn right for you, and some when you throw them will tend to turn left for you. And
So do you have like a golf bag's worth of discs?
Yes.
Or is it more like a satchel? They're pretty heavy, aren't
yeah.
they? They're metal discs.
No, they're plastic.
Oh, they're plastic.
Yeah, plastic, and that's another aspect of it. Depending on the plastic of the disc, it will do different things. How it feels in your hand when you go to throw it. They're all weighted differently, so some it depends on how you feel about the weight. Anywhere from like 150 grams to about 180 is probably the heaviest. You can throw them in different ways with a backhand throw or a forehand throw or a overhand throw, or you roll it along the ground depending on the situation. And like a golf course, you have a tee box, and then you've got an obstacle ahead of you, and you throw it into a basket. It's a metal basket.
Yeah, it's like a basket suspended on a pole.
That's right. Yeah.
That must be tough because it has to land right in the basket.
Oh, and so it's hard to. It's a really hard
Do we
thing
just put up a picture of a
yes.
a disc golf basket?
Indeed. Yeah, if you do, throw one, because it's kind of hard to
They are weird
explain.
looking, yeah.
There's chains that hang down.
I never understood how it worked.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
have to hit the chains, or do they have to go in the basket?
Hitting the chains stops your disc and then makes it fall down into the basket.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
okay.
But you could land it.
I can't remember what they look like now.
Yeah.
So whoever's watching this will probably have a much better idea of what we're talking about. But
Yeah, exactly. I've always had a hard time explaining it to people, but there's a center pole, there's got a basket in it, and then there's kind of like a hat on top, and the chains extend from the hat down the pole into the basket. And when you hit those chains, the disc, as I said earlier, will fall into the basket. Or if you're really good and you could land it directly right into the basket, a no chain, we call that. Very rare.
I like to imagine golf players have this unspoken rivalry with disc golf players, where they see each other across the street. And
They were. It's probably more one-sided because for most part, ball golfers know nothing about.
well,
disc
yeah,
golf.
because everybody knows golf, but not many
Yeah.
people know much about disc golf. so
Exactly. Yeah.
it's the disc golfers.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, those golfers. They think.
Oh,
they're-
indeed,
they're,
indeed.
They're so full of themselves.
Yeah. I've heard disc golf takes all the good stuff from ball golf and uses that and leaves and gets rid of all the bad stuff, like just the pretentiousness. The courses themselves are generally free to play.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you where
Yeah.
you play that because I think you play them on at golf courses, right? And they just have holes that they put.
That is becoming more popular, but by increments. But normally they're a standalone. For the most part, they're standalone courses, and they're very rare. There's a few now ball golf courses, because ball golf is on a bit of a decline. So they're looking for revenue streams, and so they now know that. But because of the pandemic, one of the activities people were allowed to do was go out and play disc golf. And so disc golf rose in popularity, like really huge, to the point where there are professional disc golf players, people that make their living just playing disc golf, like ball golf players.
Right.
And I don't know the exact numbers before the pandemic, but let's say a professional disc golfer was maybe getting $10,000 a year, right? So they'd have to do something. Well, now the highest paid disc golfer is getting $10 million. Yeah, Paul Macbeth would be one that comes to mind. So it's really,
Do you follow professional disc golf as well?
a little bit.
Is there a Tiger Woods of disc golfing?
Paul Macbeth would be
I
the
guess that would be him.
Tiger Woods of disc golf.
And
yeah.
is he, does he carry any real like star power? Like, is he?
Oh, yeah.
He must be good.
Yeah,
Obviously, if
he
he
is
gets paid
good,
$10 million bucks. But
Yep,
like,
yep.
do you watch a Paul Macbeth clip and say, "Wow,
Yep.
what a shot"?
I do. Yes, yeah. Paul Macbeth, Calvin Heimberg, Ricky Rasaki. Those are just some names just thrown out there. And Eagle McMahon. There's a good name.
That is a
for
very
golfer.
that's a good name for anybody.
Eagle
Yeah.
McMahon.
Eagle
One
McMahon.
of the best names
That's
I've ever heard.
intimidating.
Yeah, and he's one of the best. And he's
You
got the
don't-
longest.
You don't want to get on the wrong side of a guy named Eagle.
Can you imagine
Or
being like
McMahon.
Mike Smith going up against Eagle McMahon?
Eagle McMahon.
That's a boss. That's the Matt of disc golf.
Going back to camping,
Oh yes.
you say you have a lot of stories.
Oh
Surely you have a good camping story. Oh, a good time, a bad time.
yes. Let me see here. Well, we let's see. Sort of one that comes to mind just recently is so Mr. S.W.A.K, he has a degree in camping, and one thing he's quite good at,
Prestigious camping degree.
prestigious camping degree. Outdoor adventure leadership is actually the term.
Mr. Zabowski, if you're watching, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I shouldn't slander your outdoor adventure leadership degree.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I
Yeah, if you
apologize.
didn't, you'd be the only one that didn't slander it. We organized a trip, and he loves to organize them as well, and it's great. He does a good job of them, so he's got good ideas. So we follow where his roots, and we went canoeing like 4 years ago, to a place called Wabakimi, and it's 6-hour drive north of Thunder Bay. And to get there, we took a train, and you give the train conductor grid location of where you want to be let out. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the train travels along, and it's got a baggage cart with your canoe in it and all your bags, and sleeping cars and whatnot. We didn't pay for that aspect, but we left from Sudbury, and I think it took us, because of a lot of reasons, it took us something like 22 hours to get from Sudbury to where we needed to get to this Wabakimi Provincial Park. And we gave the conductor and they slowed down and right at this bridge, and we knew that we gave them the grid, and we jumped out. They opened the baggage cart, threw out the canoes, threw out all our bags, and we had a 14-day adventure of just doing this big loop up in Wabakimi. Oh, it was so beautiful. Not many people get up to that part of the world, and so the fishing was amazing. There was nobody. We saw a few people. Anyone getting up there will fly in. Rarely do they do what we do and take a train and do that. And then when we made it back after our 14 days, we ended up, it's this little teeny tiny speck of a village called Armstrong. And in Armstrong, that's where we catch the train. And the train, it's the Cross Canada train that you travel on. So it goes across Canada, and then you got it one way, and then it comes back, and you pick it up along the way. And we missed it. We missed it by we screwed up. We got the hours wrong. I don't know what it was. We haven't quite put the finger of blame yet on anybody specifically, but we missed it. So we had to spend 3 days in this little town of Armstrong.
Oh, wow.
that had a little tiny motel that had like 4 rooms, and of course some people come and stay in Armstrong for whatever reason, usually road workers, and they use those rooms. So all of us were jammed in this one room, and we stayed in this little tiny town of Armstrong with literally nothing to do until the train came by, and we got back on the train and traveled another 17 hours back to Sudbury. But it was quite an adventure, and we just spent our time in the restaurant car and enjoying ourselves and playing games.
I feel like I've heard of Armstrong. Is that like a? I think it must be like a big way station for people going on fishing trips and stuff. 'Cause I know a lot of Americans come up to go
Oh
to
yeah,
the Northern Lakes, right?
might be. Yeah. You could actually drive to Armstrong. I don't know why we didn't. Maybe because it was so.
Because I've heard of
so
people
far.
taking like planes into
Yeah,
Armstrong.
yeah, you would. Yeah, lots of planes. Yep.
Yeah.
There's lots of.
They have like an airstrip there.
They have an airstrip. They would probably. Yeah, good question. Didn't see any airstrip, but they might have landed on the water. A lot of water planes. There are a lot of fishing lodges up in that area. So
So I think it's a big tourist area for that.
people will drive in, and we actually stayed in one really cool spot, an abandoned fishing lodge, Goki Fishing Lodge, I guess it was called. Beautiful. It cost millions of dollars to make, and I don't know the reasons why it got abandoned, but it's no longer in use. And we pulled up to we had heard about it, so we canoed up to it, and there's cabins and there's motorboats and a restaurant, a bar, and like everything.
There's just nobody there.
and nobody there.
Wow.
Yeah, and
That's scary.
that's
man.
horrifying.
That sounds like Until Dawn.
it was.
I would not want to. I would be too scared.
I know. Yeah, we did get ourselves on purpose, like worked up a little bit, like, because we're looking in all the rooms and everything. We're looking for when's the
Looking
last
over Wendigos,
person,
dude.
when was the last time? August 2005 was the last date we could find on any, like there was a magazine there that said August 2005, and then
Whoa.
A magazine cover that says "Camper goes missing."
yeah, like a Goki,
2005.
like a Goki.
Yeah.
There was one. Oh, there was a lot of freaky things there, though. Like there was one. So they had a big main lodge, and of course, it wasn't even boarded up. Right? There was, and a window had broke, so we went in through the broken window, and there's. Beautiful
as you do,
fireplace.
right?
Yeah, as you would.
Abandoned
those
fishing lodge, middle of the
explore.
forest, broken window. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, we had there was strength in numbers or safety in numbers. There was 5 of us, and it was daylight still, and
That makes all the difference.
that helped.
I
That
can't
helped.
imagine this place not being like gloomy.
To me, it's
nighttime.
midnight full
Yeah.
moon.
Well, I just wanted to say, in one corner of the main lodge, in this one, like in behind the kitchen, because we got exploring, and like all the cutlery was there, all the plates and works up the bar area, the stereo system. There's all the bar glasses hanging from it was all there. It was all there, and in one small corner there was a TV, VCR, and a single chair, and somebody is coming there and just staying there and watching TV or something. They had this one little spot, and that was kind of the eeriest. So I said, okay, there's somebody that's been here.
Okay,
No.
I might have misheard you when you first introduced this location. But
Yeah.
Did you say you stayed there?
So what we ended up doing,
Because after that,
yeah, I know.
That's horrifying.
I don't know.
And that wasn't even the most horrifying. The most horrifying was that one of the doors. So there's all these buildings, and we explored a lot of them.
It gets worse.
Yeah, one of the it's a maintenance building. We opened that up, and there's all these outboard engines
You went to the fuse box.
sitting. There was like a whole a diesel engine for pumping water and sanitation. Like everything was there. Just walked away, and there was one door that had locks on the outside, like these sliding locks on the outside. What we stared at. I got a picture. And at the very top of the door were 2 handprints, as if they had been someone from the inside. Yeah, but they were muddy, so not bloody, but muddy. 2 handprints. And we're all looking at it going, why are there locks on the door? And why is there like these 2 handprints that had looked like they'd reached over the top of the door? And so
You entered a horror game.
exactly,
not
I know.
Sir, have you ever
You are
heard,
like a
have you ever heard
movie
of
set.
Silent Hill? Have you ever played the video game Silent Hill?
Oh, I've heard of it, but no, I've not
You
played
ever played it? Okay.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
maybe you should. Even if you haven't played it, I'm sure you'd get nostalgic. Because that is exactly like Silent Hill.
Yeah, there was a lot. One of them, my nephew was with us, and he was like, he's very funny, and he kept every swap in. Okay, so I guess we're going now. Okay, so it's time to go. There was campsites nearby, so we're going to stay here. Oh, we're staying in the abandoned kitchen fishing lodge, are we? Not the campsite, just down the lake. What we ended up doing is we just pitched our tents on the property, and that was the safest, easiest. But and then later, I remember there was a beautiful like balcony that overlooked the expanse of the property, and I was standing there at night, and it was just everyone's going to bed. I was probably the last person to go, and I don't know, whatever. I just the last person to get into bed, and something dropped in the woods, and of course,
I don't know how you could sleep. I'd just be waiting for QuickTime events the whole time.
I ran and I jumped into the tent as if the tent was going to save me, and closed it up, and I went to sleep. And well, I'm here to talk about it still. So.
Wow.
We should send like a search team over there to
Yeah,
a paranormal team to go see if there's any ghosts
that's
in the area.
like too perfect though too.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
the maintenance area.
Yep.
It had to be the maintenance area too.
I know.
I've got pictures. I can show you. I took pictures from my phone. I still have them.
Maybe if you have those, you put those on the screen. But,
Yeah.
wow.
And nobody, especially all like the money that was left behind, like the money in material items, beautiful boats, and as I said, outboard motors and all sorts of things. But with nothing we could take, nothing we could even use, because we canoed in with everything we could possibly need, and we couldn't take anything extra out of there. Like, it was, in fact, unless there was food, otherwise, so it just sits there rotting away. Yeah.
You said there was like glasses and stuff still in there. Like
Oh yeah.
it's not like it had been like robbed. It just
Yeah, I guess it's just so hard to get to unless someone's going to like take a plane there or do
Yeah.
what we did, which was, what are we, like 10 days of canoeing?
Well, I think that's why it's so scary, like the story you're saying, because you can't get in there without flying in. Like,
That's right.
There's no.
Yeah.
It's not like there's help around.
Nope, and no way out but your own muscle and canoeing. Yeah, and we were still 5 days from, where we were to get into civilization, I guess, 5 or 6 anyways. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was funny. So that was an interesting experience.
Yeah, wow.
Going to the abandoned fishing lodge.
Yeah, man. I don't think S.W.A.K could top that. Well,
Well, he was there.
yeah, he was there, so I guess he can.
Yeah.
But now I wish we had him back, because like I want to ask his perspective on that. 'Cause
I'm offended you didn't bring it up sooner.
a little bit, yeah. Is there anything else you like to do outside of school? Because I thought I heard a while back you're going to a boxing club. Is that right?
Yes, I do. So I train in Muay Thai kickboxing. Yeah. So I do that. Well, it occupies about three nights a week.
And how long have you been doing that for?
I've been doing that for 3 years now. Like seriously, for 3 years. I used to kickbox, a different kind of kickboxing back when I was younger, in my 20s, and but I was at the same time playing rugby, so I couldn't do both, and so I chose rugby for a while, and I figured I'd get back into the kickboxing. I didn't think it was going to take that long, but it did, and that's just a wonderful thing. Oh yeah, I don't live and breathe it, but I certainly enjoy the fitness aspect, and then learning new skills as well.
Yeah, man. I forgot to ask you about your rugby career.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
somebody said maybe you should mention that to McGregor. 'Cause I guess you played pretty seriously for a while.
Yeah, I played. I guess it's semi-professional rugby. Rugby didn't become professional till 1995, so it stayed as an amateur sport. But I played for Waterloo University on the varsity team, and I played for what's called the Niagara Thunder. So that's a representative team. And then a whole bunch of different clubs everywhere I went. So that's the beauty of playing rugby. Maybe this happens with other sports, I don't know, but anywhere you can travel the world playing rugby.
Well, because I guess it's such a global, or at least like a Commonwealth global sport. Right?
You're right, it is. And I met many people that were traveling the world, guys from England or New Zealand or Scotland, and they would, and this is what happens, and I got a little taste of it myself. So I was playing in Ottawa, and guys would show up, and around the world, rugby practice is on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and games are on Saturdays. That's pretty much guaranteed everywhere.
Really?
And so you just go to a local rugby club if you have your cleats and your gear, and you just kind of show up, and you get almost instantly welcomed by everybody. And as long as if you're good at the sport, then it's even better. But then you're instantly sort of plugged into wherever town or city that you're in, and everyone welcomes you, and you end up, if you need a place to stay, there are 120 couches you could sleep on, or extra rooms, different jobs that people offer you. Like you could work like under this cash in hand jobs, doing odd jobs here and there. As I say, you get welcomed into the community, and you play rugby with them. And then one guy I met from New Zealand, he was in his early 20s, and he's following the sun playing rugby. So wherever the sun was, wherever summer was, that's where he was going to be. So he got to Ontario during the summer, played rugby with us, and
then he goes Southern Hemisphere.
and then he goes some of there, and then he's just started going west, and then eventually down the southern hemisphere, and then when that turned winter, he came back up to the northern hemisphere.
Wow.
You must love the sport to do that, eh? Just
Oh, yeah.
traveling all the time, dedicated to playing constantly.
It's a rugby
playing.
marauder.
Really?
Rugby
Traveling-
mercenary.
Traveling the world, yeah.
Yeah, and so I went and did something very similar. I did like in Alberta and British Columbia, but then in Scotland and England, I just showed up at a rugby, just show up at a rugby field. People say, "Hey, mate, where are you from?" "Oh, from Canada." "Oh, welcome." And then they end up they'll give you a game, because usually clubs will have 2 to 4 teams. When I played in England, my club they had 6 teams, and they find a spot for you because you need 15 players a game, like minimum, like on the field. So there's always need for somebody.
Yeah, so they're always willing to accept new people into their,
Oh yeah,
their little rugby community.
and then there's always the social atmosphere, and it's very, very social sport. So after practices and games, you get together and you have food and drinks and just a really good time. And there's lots of traditions, especially in different parts of the world. Singing is a big tradition in rugby, and certainly in Europe, and all sorts of these kinds of fun things that you just get instantly involved in. You can't help but love. Yeah.
It definitely sounds like you've had a lot of good experiences with it.
Oh yeah,
And met a
yeah.
lot of interesting people.
Definitely. Oh yeah, so lifelong friends, and I the only sad part was that I just sort of grew too old to play.
Well, that's very like physical
Yeah,
sport.
yeah. You're coming in on Mondays like with your arm in a sling, and you got to ice your ankle, and then you're just not you're just not recovering as fast as you did when you were younger. You question yourself. Why am I doing this?
Okay, well, we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
But before we go,
Yes.
as always, we wanted to ask you. We've talked about a lot on this podcast,
Oh,
right?
okay.
We've covered a good range of topics.
All right, good.
Talking about your work as a chaplain,
Yeah.
as a soldier, as a teacher,
Yeah.
experiences with rugby and all the stuff you like to do.
Yeah.
And we wanted to ask you, this is sort of your time we like to give you to, in case you have anything to say, because most of our viewers are likely students.
Yeah.
So if you had any message to say to students, whether it's students who will be coming here in the years to come or students right now, is there anything you'd like to say?
Well, there's an adage, right, that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should do twice as much listening as you do talking. And we live in a culture that does not like silence. Like, we're uncomfortable with silence, but it's in silence that you do your best listening, right? And certainly your best interior listening, right? And if you surround yourself, or you don't escape that noise around you, then you won't be able to listen like you need to. So I just recommend to everyone to carve out some silence for yourself every day. If it's just 10 minutes, right? Make them turn off your phone, turn off your distractions, get away from your distractions. It's only 10 minutes, right? You'd be surprised of how you'll grow personally, just if you make that your practice. And it'll help you make better decisions. It'll help you just be calmer, right? And be a little bit more balanced in your life. And then you can listen to that voice that's telling you what's the next, where should I be? Where should I be? Where am I to be? What's my next thing to do?
All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, this has been After Class with Evan and Aiden. Thank you for being on the show. We
Well, it's
greatly
wonderful to be
appreciate
here.
it.
Yeah, wonderful.
And to everybody listening, hope you enjoyed. We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.